All right, this is the follow up, and we are following up today on a live video I did on George's Space Chat last year in 2020 entitled The Best Seat in the House Playing Bass Behind Singers. My guest today on the follow up is the great Bette Sussman. Bette, thank you so much for making yourself available and welcome to the follow up.
Thank you for asking me. I've seen some of your chats and I love the format
Oh, thank you.
and you have wonderful people on.
Excellent. Well, yes, I do. And they're especially wonderful for taking my call. I really appreciate that.
Never a problem.
Yeah. So let me give whoever is watching, whoever is listening out there, a little bit of a summary. In the best seat in the house, in the live video, I try to explain why I enjoy playing behind singers so much. It's somewhat of a forte of mine, and it's something that I very actively seek out to do. I thought that Bette Sussman, as a composer, as keyboard player, as MD of some of the most iconic voices in, I don't know, music history, would be a fantastic guest for this subject, because nobody, and I do mean nobody, has the point of view, has the perspective that she has gained over many, many years of being in the business. But let me open it up to you. Playing behind singers, what is the first thing that comes to your mind maybe before we get into who those singers were in your case?
Well, the first thing is the privilege of playing behind amazing singers.
Yeah.
It's much better than playing behind shitty singers. much better.
Yeah, there is a difference.
I've been very fortunate, I'm often wowed on the job,
Yeah, for sure. So again, for the audience, let's give the audience some background. Some of these singers that we're talking about were none other but Cissy Houston, Whitney Houston, Betty Midler. Maybe give us I know there are many, but give us a rundown of who you have been working with and who you were associated with, who you are associated with.
Okay, well, there were a couple of guys, not many, but couple of guys. I played with Michael Franks.
Right.
That was wonderful, and I played like my first gig. I think my first major gig was going on tour with Tim Curry.
Right.
And he is a tremendous, people know him, Rocky Horror Show, whatever. He's a tremendous songwriter, singer, teller of stories, great teller of stories.
Yeah.
You mentioned Cissy, which is where, I attribute to a lot of my growth and knowledge from the years I spent with her. I got quite the education playing with her.
Yeah.
She's an amazing singer. And of course, she was, Whitney was with her. Whitney was singing backgrounds with her when I was playing and music directing for Cissy. And then of course I went on to tour with Whitney for many years.
Right.
I toured with Bette Midler as her musical director and piano player for many years, over 11 years, both of them over 11 years. I came back, I've done some work with Carly Simon.
Nice.
I worked with I worked with Patti LuPone, incredible Broadway star. Also Christine Ebersole, an incredible Broadway star who is, one of my favorite people to play behind. She's just an exquisite, instrument and beautiful human being. So that's, give you an idea of the kind of singers. I mean, really, really high quality singers, which is why I say first things first is that, it's like pinch me. It's a privilege as someone who does what you and I both love to do and possibly think of as our better attribute as a player, playing behind amazing singers. There's a big difference between playing behind singers and playing in a band,
right?
Or instrumental music. It's a different art, I think.
Yeah, most definitely. Now that was actually going to be my next point, and that is the difference of playing behind singers versus playing instrumental music. I should also tell the audience that you have an extensive background in writing instrumental music, as writing for TV, writing, composing, and all of that. So there are a lot of points that you can speak to when it comes to both endeavors, so to speak, right?
Right.
In the live video, what I tried to explain to the audience was, as a bass player, of course, there's always sort of the responsibility of dynamic changes kind of lie with us, right? If we go loud, the entire band goes loud. If we go soft, the entire band goes soft. Granted, perhaps together with the drummer, perhaps, you know, at a signal of the MD, but generally speaking, we do control dynamics in the band, right? Among many other things. Playing behind a singer, you give up that control, right?
Yes.
As a bass player. And now what I was curious about, as for you, in your perspective as an MD, how
Right.
does that translate? How does that control of dynamics translate when playing instrumental music versus playing behind a singer?
Well, to me, like when you're playing behind a singer, it's about space. It's about
Right.
moving everything out of the way and leaving the highway here for the singer to take over, right?
Yeah.
You kind of have to give the space to them, let them take it, and you take your lead from them.
Right.
There's a lot, I mean, there's listening involved in every kind of playing, but when you're
Yeah.
playing with a singer, there's so much conversation, you know, there, as from a piano player standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much conversation
Right.
as maybe the lead instrument in a quartet,
Right.
playing behind a singer. The piano would be the lead instrument, say.
Right.
So it's about leaving space and about having a conversation. You know, with the great singers, you have the thing that makes that pairing so great is the conversation.
Right.
You know,
Right.
because you know, great singers listen to their musicians.
Yeah.
Some people tend to maybe get nervous and don't listen, you know, and just
Right.
go and plow through. Great singers want to play it, want great musicians so they can play off of musicians and they can have more of a conversation.
Right.
So I think with you know, with that in mind, it's really about creating the space for the singer and then having a conversation and being able to extend the conversation, you know,
Right.
so that everybody has the opportunity to chime in, you
Right.
know.
Right.
There's
Right.
the confidence, a singer's confidence in her musicians leads the way for conversation among the band as well. So it all circles around but one person.
Yeah.
Whereas in an instrumental band, it's a big palette, you know, it's a
Right.
big palette.
Yeah, most definitely. I want to just because you mentioned Tim Curry, and I'm a huge fan of his. I do have one of the very first CDs I ever bought in 1991 was a best of Tim Curry. All right.
No kidding.
Yes, yeah, it was the best of
That's
Tim
crazy.
Curry. And I don't know. I wanted to get back to the point of storytelling, right?
Yes.
And how that informs what you're doing when you're playing behind singers. I understand that, you know, a lot of our audience might not necessarily understand vague terms in, you know, like storytelling, like what does that actually mean? But how does that inform what you're doing behind singers when a singer is telling a story?
That's a great question. You know, I mean, it taps into, you know, harmony.
Right.
It taps into harmony, major chords, minor chords, dominant chords, dissonant chords.
Right.
You know, listening to lyrics. You know, it's so funny. For so many years, you know, until I became a really mature piano player, it's like, who cares about the words? Who cares about the words? And now it's all I care about are the words.
Yeah.
You know, I and my job is to color the music so it forces you to listen to the words.
Right.
Creates a connection harmonically, you know, as far as your choices.
Right.
I mean, you can play a minor chord and you can play you can turn that into a minor 6 chord or a minor 9 chord or a major minor chord to try and make the lyrics stand out.
Right. Most definitely. Yeah.
It helps to tell the story. If it's sad, if it's happy, if there's tension,
yeah.
you know, that's,
That's a great description of exactly what does storytelling mean in this sense, you know, in this environment. Because
Well, storytelling is about a lyric. The
yeah,
storytelling is about a great lyric. I mean, a lot of Tim Curry's, you know, his songs are, you know, they're story songs.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
Jimmy Webb is a story song teller, you know,
right,
composer and teller. So, you know, there's Ooh Baby Baby, and then there's story songs. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
I
yeah,
remember Sissy, you know, Sissy used to choose. Sissy would come to me with all of these songs from white people.
right, right,
She'd come to me with these Neil Sedaka songs and Neil Diamond songs, and I'm like, what? Don't you have no black friends? You know, it's like, but that was such an education for me because these songs were all songs. These were story songs, and Sissy Houston can tell a story like nobody's business,
right,
as you know, as her daughter can too. But you know, she started it. She's the pioneer.
right,
But
right,
you know, it's about telling a story, and so our choices enable that story to be told
exactly.
in a particular way.
Right. Now there was one thing that you also said a little earlier was, and that was pertaining to seeing the bigger picture, right? Seeing the bigger picture of and making space. By making space, seeing the bigger picture of whatever music you're playing. And I was wondering, um, let's get a little deeper into that. Because there might be different interpretations of that. What that means to me is being aware of a part, right? Knowing a part inside and out and respecting it. You know, at least again, that's from my point of view as a bass player. You know, this might differ from instrument to instrument, but that is one thing that I take away from that particular saying. Now, making space and seeing the bigger picture. What's your take on that?
Um, well, basically, you know, if you're playing it with an instrumental band, say, and you're
Mhm.
playing like a groove, you know, like maybe an eighth note groove, and I'm
Right,
playing like maybe like a you know, just like an eighth note kind of a groove.
right,
Okay, so if I'm playing and if I'm playing with a singer and a singer is singing over that,
hmm,
I may not play a constant eighth note groove. I might break that up
right.
so to leave more space for the melody and find a way to
Mm.
you can imply what you don't have to play.
Oh, that is brilliant. That is brilliant. Yeah, that is brilliant. That totally explains it. This is
Well,
awesome. No, seriously, that's a very astute observation on
yeah, I
on
mean
exactly that point.
that's how you know, once I really learned the art of listening,
Yeah, yeah.
I started to play half as much.
Oh, check that out. Check that out. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to on occasion if something comes comes my way, you know, an old recording or something from like, you know, when I was in my 20s or something, you know,
Right.
it's like, wow, I played a little too much there.
Oh, check that out. Yeah,
That was a
yeah.
little too much, you know. It's like I've definitely learned about space through the years
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
through.
Yeah, most definitely. Now, before we get into like the technicalities of what it means to be an MD and all of that, let me ask you specifically with Whitney Houston, because again, there wasn't a voice like that before or after, right? Um,
Right.
what were some of the takeaways from that particular experience? I totally understand it's a very broad question, and you know you don't have to get too deep into it, but what were some of the takeaways for you? We understand, like you already established, Sissy Houston kind of taught you to listen to lyrics, right? Whitney Houston, same type of story or same level of storytelling, but what were the takeaways from that particular situation?
Well, she's the best singer, you know, she's the greatest singer in the world. So you stand up on stage and you kind of, you know, sometimes you get lost in it because
Mm,
it's like somebody pinched me, you know, how did I get here?
right, Right. Right.
What the hell am I doing up here? You know, it's like, my takeaways are, definitely were how much, I mean, there were, I could go on and talk about, you know, the years I playing with her, you know,
Right.
were, you know, sometimes were just unbelievably joyous, unbelievably fun. I mean, she was a really funny person and a really fun person. And she was, you know, at a certain point in her career, she was up for anything, you know.
Right.
But she was, you know, she was a true product of her mother's technique,
Check
is
that
what I
out.
took away from that. You know, you listen to, sometimes I go down a rabbit hole and, you know, with the, on the YouTube,
Right.
and go back and find old Sissy, you know, Sissy Houston, like TV shows that she was on or something. And, you know, she was just extraordinary,
Yeah.
incredibly extraordinary. You should see what's going on in my house. It's pretty fun. I have a cat that has a little blanket, a throw blanket that he thinks is his girlfriend.
Oh, great.
And he goes around the house with it, like humping it and walking with it. So
You know, it's what
he did it
cats
in front
do.
of, he did it in front of company the other night. And so I was so glad that people didn't have to take my word for it. Anyway, sidebar.
That's okay.
Sidebar. Yeah, I mean, you have to take, also, you know, you have to take care of your voice. You know,
Right.
one has to honor themselves and honor their voice and take care of it. And sometimes people do, and sometimes people don't.
Right.
That's a takeaway, because unfortunately, you know, later in her career, you know, she did another 10 years after I left her. I left her in 99. I was with her from 88 to 99.
Incredible.
And she had an incredible band after that as well. Really great band. But she didn't take care of her voice. And so unfortunately, you know, she lost that.
Right.
That's, you know, that's what something to take away from, you know, I mean, you see people's techniques. Like, for instance, I worked with Darlene Love for many, many years as her musical director and piano player.
Right.
And at some point during the 90s, I did a show at the Kennedy Center with Darlene, Rita Coolidge, and Mary Clayton.
Right.
It's called 20th Century Pop. And it was a lot of music to sing every night. We were down playing the Kennedy Center for, I guess it was maybe about a month or something like that. Something like that. And Darlene would sing the show. She'd go back to her room. She might stay up till 5 a.m. watching a movie.
Right.
But once the show is over, she stops talking.
Right.
No more talking.
That's incredible.
You know? And, you know, I sat up nights talking to Mary, and Mary, unfortunately, you know, didn't have a voice. You know, she didn't take care of the voice. I mean, I hate to be throwing, you know, I'm not mentioning names, but, you know, just it's the way it is.
Good. No. That's
the way it is, you know, just
yeah.
I'm trying to make a comparison, and that is, you know, one who like will stop singing at the end of the night, and one who will continue talking and drinking and whatever at the end of the night.
Right.
Which Darlene just didn't do. And so she maintained her instrument for a long time.
Right. And I mean, talking about takeaways, that is a huge takeaway, because that definitely involves all of us, all of, you know, musicians, instrumentalists, and singers. So that's, you know, very, very important to kind of keep your shit together, so you can keep doing what you love to do. There's no doubt about that. That at least for me, that's a huge takeaway. There's no doubt about that.
Well, it's much more inspiring to play with somebody who, you know, is working as hard as you are to make the show great.
Right.
You know.
Right. Most definitely. Yeah. And as a sideman, I definitely noticed that if at the end of the day, I'm not the one who is selling the show, right?
No.
The person in the front is selling the show. That's the person who people come to see, right?
Yeah.
And if they lead with a certain conviction style, whatever, it totally ups my game. There's no doubt. This is not, you know, to put all the responsibility on them. I'm fully aware of the responsibility that I have to carry as a bass player. But nevertheless, there is such a thing as a leader in any kind of environment, right? So I totally agree with you there. There's no, it inspires, it motivates, it definitely pushes you to reach higher
Same thing with Patty
levels.
Austin. She was like that too.
There you
She
go.
was, Patty was, she just sing her show and then goodbye. Take care of that voice. And she, and she blew every night,
Right.
like crazy.
And it takes
I mean that in a good way.
Yeah. No, and that takes that takes an incredible amount of discipline after all.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about that. And as a background musician, you do see that, and it ups your discipline game. So once again, like the difference between instrumental music and vocal music, when it comes to writing, which you have done quite a bit. I mean, let's not forget that you are Emmy winner, Emmy nominated for a lot of TV music, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's the truth. So writing for instrumental music, writing for TV music versus writing and or arranging for vocalists. What are some of the takeaways? Because I try to also kind of explain that again from a bass player's point of view in the live video. As an MD, as a composer, what are your takes? What's your take on that?
Well, I think that there's more music when you're writing for a singer, there's more music involved. When you're writing like the stuff that I would write for these shows, they're very motif oriented.
Yeah.
It's very motif oriented writing. Like I would create a motif for a character. And
sorry, Bette, if I interrupt you, but let me, just for the audience, the shows were, I believe, One Life to
Live and As the World Turns.
As the World Turns. Okay. All right. So please continue. I just wanted to add that.
Okay. Yeah. So, it's very motif driven music, It's like creating a motif for each characters. Right. And so that motif can play, it can play happy, it can play melancholy, it can play sad, it can play angry, it can play chaotic. Yeah. You just have to, that's a really good example of what we were talking about before about, choosing your choice of harmony, whether you play a straight triad or you add a ninth or you add a flat nine or you add a major with a minor with a major seven, it's like colors. creating colors. Yes. Is what that's all about. Creating colors around perhaps a motif. Right. Or something that just gives you a bed, sometimes, oh, Jesus, what happened? Oh,
no, absolutely. Everything.
I hit my little thumbnail by mistake and I became the screen. It was like, no, too early. Yeah. So that to me is, that's really what the difference between the writing, between writing for a singer and writing for a TV.
You said that with a singer, there's more music.
Well, this, it's more, when I say it's more, like that's more elemental.
Yeah.
Like writing for TV was more, it's more elemental. It's like creating, it's like, putting something, putting a sound here. Right. And you have your basis thing and then putting another sound there and just adding elements that make the track bigger. Right. Or make the track whatever it is. Right. Writing a song is, you're writing music, you're writing lyrics, you're writing melody. There's just a little bit more content. Right. That's a little more fluff. Writing songs is a little more content.
I understand. Yeah.
When I say fluff, I'm not disparaging writing TV music. It's, it's whether, what I always used to have to tell myself was, you're still being creative. You're writing, for daytime TV, but this is still, you're getting paid to like create. So music, so it's all good.
Yeah. Listen, I ran into
whatever anybody gets to do to get paid to play music is fine with me.
Yeah, I was just going to say I ran into Pino Palladino of all people on 9th Avenue one day, and he doesn't know me, but of course I know him, and the first thing I introduce myself, we have, exchanges, we take a picture, and his leaving words, just pleasantries and leaving words were, listen, the minute you make money with that thing, I had my bass on my back, with that thing on your back, you're good to go. Like that was his that was his parting words to me. And I was like, that makes sense. It doesn't, your creativity will come through whatever whatever the circumstances are, you know.
Well, that's what you have to, you kind of, I mean, even from the standpoint of like so many more musicians play in the pits of Broadway shows.
Right, right, of
So
course.
that could be boring unless you find a way to, you know, put a bit of your own, you know, your own soul into what you're doing, you know. I mean, it's like everything is respectable.
Right.
As long as you're playing your craft, you know, you're doing your craft. It's like no more, you know, no judgments.
Yeah.
You're making money. Good for you. You got a hefty pension from playing in the pit for all those years. Good for you.
Yeah, most definitely. No. There's no doubt about that.
Playing club dates, playing club dates, whatever. Good for you. You're making money.
Yeah.
Playing music.
Yeah. No, that's the most important thing. There's definitely nothing else. Of course, there is, you know, there might be the question of self-expression, right? And you kind of touched on that already. But I was wondering, say you, the gig you had with Bette Midler, right?
Her name is Bette.
Bette, also Bette. Okay,
yes.
My bad.
No problem.
I always get these wrong, so that's why I asked at the beginning.
I see you're a big fan.
Yeah, well, the gig with Bette Midler, right? Yeah. How does that? Again, you're playing behind an extremely iconic singer, right? Very, very well known. How far does self-expression come into your mind, if at all?
Oh, it's always in my mind. I mean, self-expression is always in my mind. It's never, you know, I mean, even if I'm reading the same notes as somebody else, I might, you know, they might sound very different. Yeah. I could read the same notes as somebody else plays it and I'll play it, or somebody else plays it. It sounds completely different. Yeah. But, you know, I mean, it was with Bette, you know, it was different, you know, like sometimes I would do intimate gigs with Bette, like in New York, where we would play some event where she'd sing one or two songs, and it would just be she and, you know, me and her.
Yeah.
Me and her, yeah. Or you know, or there's sometimes we had like when we were in Vegas for 2 years, the last gig that we did, you know, we had 17 people on the stage.
Yeah.
So that was, I had big, you know, a lot of horns, and so that was a big band. And there was, you know, I got to write.
Right.
I got to write a lot with Bette, with, you know, with these big shows. First of all, we wrote an opening number. We wrote a song for, you know, she always did this character. She had this character, Dolores Delago, which where she came out on a wheel. She's a mermaid on it, and she does it in a wheelchair. And the Harlettes also wear mermaid costumes and are in wheelchairs. It's this whole wheelchair choreography. But you know, so there was always stuff to write for that. So right. That was a very creative gig. I mean, it was a very creative, I mean, as the musical director, it was a very creative gig because I did a lot of the arranging. Yeah. I had a great horn section. I had a great horn arranger too, Nathan Tenoy, who was the trombone player in our band out in Vegas. So, you know, I would have some ideas and share them with Nathan. He would come back in with kicking, you know, arrangements. So I would do like basic arrangements, and he would, you know, orchestrate them.
Right.
And, you know, but the singers are different. Sometimes, like, some singers are more insecure than others.
Okay.
And, you know, my tendency is to leave more space for the singer, to play less and play quieter and let the singer, you know, I know that there were times when I would play with Bette where there would be an intro, and then she would be kind of out there and with a very sparse accompaniment. And sometimes that just freaked her out. She wanted to play more, you know? Right. You know, whereas on another day, it's like, you're playing too much. It's like, sometimes you know, you have to give, that's a give and take, you know, with a singer. It's like, sometimes they want the support, and sometimes, you know, they would not, they'd rather you leave the space. Right. So, but, you know, playing with her was, you know, was creative in all aspects, because I got to compose, I got to play, I got to do vocal arrangements, you know, and band arrangements. So it was very creative.
Yeah, no, I think it's so important it's important for me, but it's also important for the audience to hear that coming from you, because there is a lot of I shouldn't say there is a lot, but there is some reluctance when it comes to these gigs. It's like, oh man, I don't want to play parts all the time. I don't want to basically be relegated to, the second line, so to speak. Yet it's important for the audience and for myself as well to hear that there is a plethora of self-expression, no matter what the situation is, right?
Oh yeah.
You touched on the Broadway situation where, of course you have to play a show and it has to be the same night after night. Within that, you're probably, as you well know, you're playing with different people night after night.
Right.
So that in and of itself is already can be worlds apart, right? You have to react to different personalities, different touches, different timbres every night. Right?
It also depends on what the show is, what the book is.
Yes.
Like I was fortunate enough to sub on the original Color Purple.
Right.
So Joe Jabert was the associate music director. Linda
Twine
was the conductor.
Yeah.
And we had, the bass chair was sick. It was between God.
I think
I'm gonna go blank. But
Louis,
it was what I'm trying to say was that it was no. What were you gonna say?
I think Luico played that show, perhaps.
No. It was a guy. It was another guy that I had never played with before, but he was fierce. And then there was I can't think of his name right off the top of my head. It's looming somewhere.
And I
still have a little COVID fog. That's my answer for everything now. COVID fog.
It's all good.
That was a lot of the times there were slashes in that music.
Right.
So in some places, for those of you who understand what that is, in other words, there's not every note is not written out for you. Play.
Yeah.
Just play within this, within the confines of of the style and what you're doing.
And play the right thing, right? This.
Yeah. So that was so when you're, there's some books where there's like, note for note, you got to play, and that can be a little bit, but that's what you're getting paid to do. So suck it up and play it, and play it as best as you can.
Right.
And when you get in those situations, when you get Buddy Williams on drums and Shelton Beckton on organ and Steve Barganetti on guitar and
we'll find out the minute the interview is over. It'll come right back.
He'll chime in, right? Yeah. I'll call you back. I'll go, it was there.
No, this I think the idea of self-expression is so important, and it's important to realize that, and hearing it from someone like you with your experience, with your background, means the world to me, means the world to the audience, right? Because that's why I'm also asking about questions about Whitney Houston, questions about Tim Curry, Cissy Houston, whoever. It's important to get these stories or get these insights and interpret them into our own lives, right? We're not going to play with Whitney Houston anymore. That's impossible, right?
Not gonna happen.
We're probably not going to play with Tim Curry anymore, right? Even though he's very active on Twitter and very funny.
Is he?
Yeah. He's definitely like
I gotta find him and I didn't even know. I kind of lost track of Tim after a while.
Right. No, his wit is still. He's a very smart dude. But we have to take these insights and kind of put them onto our current situations, right? And that's why your insights are so valuable. So that's why I'm trying to get deeper into whatever the artists were and whatever the peculiarities of that particular gig were. So listen, Bette, I don't want to keep you too long. Any parting words? Any ideas on again playing behind singers? Because that's where we started off with. And
listen, that's my parting word.
Listen.
Use your ears.
Right.
That's the key thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, playing with someone like Christine Ebersole, allows. People like that, Christine, Patti LuPone. they choose musicians because they respect them.
Right.
So they want you to play. They want
Right.
you to play, but they want, you know, but they will give you the space as well.
Right. Right. Right,
You
right,
know,
right.
so
Most definitely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, this there was one point that I wanted to make. I just remembered it because you spoke to your long-time association with Whitney Houston,
yeah.
long-time association with Bette Midler. It's not. I know that Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, all these singers had long-time associations with particular musicians, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to highlight to the audience that that is part of that conversation that you were talking about, that you're having
Mm-hmm.
with a particular artist. Would that be correct?
Yes, of
Oh,
course.
great, great, great,
Of
great.
course.
Yeah, I
You want
think.
to hear? Can I give you a little Frank Sinatra story?
Please do, please do.
I mean, I've played in like in orchestra for like his birthday part celebrations that were on TV. But once, um, after after I did the best concert ever with Whitney, which was the Welcome Home the Troops concert,
Right.
down in Norfolk, Virginia, after in the Desert Storm, after Desert Storm. But I went on and did playing in the orchestra. I used to do a lot of TV shows with my friend Glenn Rovin, who was a brilliant musician, conductor. He's no longer with us, but we used to do a lot of TV stuff. And he'd bring me out to play in the orchestras. And one night, we're doing this other like Welcome Home America, I think it was. It was another like an ABC special for Welcome Home the Troops for
Right.
after the Desert Storm. And Frank Sinatra was on that gig. This was in
Wow.
1992.
Wow.
And he was late. And we all went off. We left the stage. We had finished sound check. And then, of course, 2 minutes later, we get a call saying, he's in the building, come down. And so Frank goes out there we're doing the sound, doing his song. And Frank comes back and he looks at me and he goes, yeah, baby. That's where Frank Sinatra started. Yeah, baby. I got Yeah, Baby by Frank Sinatra.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it's awesome. No pressure, just yeah, baby.
Yeah, baby.
And we're on, just sound like you've played with me your entire life, right? Awesome. So listen, on that note, Bette Sussman, thank you so much for being here today. Thanks for sharing your insights, your experiences. I truly appreciate it. I know the audience appreciates it as well. I hope that, we get to run into each other at either the clubs or in Midtown in the not too distant future.
Or maybe on a gig.
Or maybe on a gig.
How about on a gig? We've never played a gig together.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah. No, that would be fantastic. I would totally be into that. So, but again, Bette Sussman, thank you so much for making yourself available.
Thank you so much.
Stay safe out there and all the best to you.
Thank you.
All right.